Good afternoon, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be painting car parts. As you've seen in previous videos, if not, go back and watch. I've taken the front suspension off Integra and blasted them in a blasting cabinet and even wire wheeled them to get them all clean. When you're painting parts, I would recommend you just strip the part of all coatings, grease, oils, rust, anything that is on top of the bare metal, so that way you can get the best adhesion from the paint. If you don't do as such, the paint might not adhere right and won't last as long. So step one, I would recommend clean the parts, remove any and all contaminants. As you can see, all the parts are clean. Next thing you want to do is find a day that is above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you possibly can, a day with 50 or lower percent humidity. It might not be possible, and if you have a painting booth at your disposal, I'd rather use that than be outdoors. Another thing is your environment. You also want to be in hopefully a dust-free and outdoors environment, so that way it's when the parts gas out, they're not gassing out and smelling up your environment. So for the next part, what you want to do is tape up the parts, the part of the parts you do not want painted. So for example, on this lower control arm, I do not want these threads coated, or right here, because this is where a bearing slash bushing will sit. I also do not want this surface to be painted as well. So while you're at it, tape all this up. Tape any part that you do not want paint in, such as threads, holes, any place that you do not want paint or anything getting into. I would recommend you go get a spool of painter's tape, and you don't have to do this, but I actually have a gasket maker punch set, which will allow me to cut the tape in perfect circles to cover holes such as this. So I'm going to finish taping and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, now that I've taped up all the parts, should look something like this. Got tape in screw holes, tape over any point that you don't need paint in. Now we move on to the next step of then wiping it down with acetone. You can find this at Home Depot, Lowe's, any type of hardware store would carry it. And what you want to do is you want to clean the part and get all the grease and oils from your hands off the part. So I would recommend wearing rubber gloves, because you do not want to be touching this as you're wiping it down, because then you'll just be going in circles. So put on some rubber gloves and then wipe down everything. You got to make sure that you want to wipe it down to the point of the cloth having no discoloration or anything. I'm going to do that right now. Alright, I just wiped down to every single part. They are all as clean as they can be. Now is for the important part of priming it. I'm using self-etching primer. I don't really know much about what each primer does, but that's what I use. It seems to stick the best for me. You can pick it up at, again, Home Depot, Lowe's, any hardware store that has paint. Now, definitely read the directions on the back of the can, because each company does things slightly different. But in general, you want to paint, well, at least with this stuff, you want to prime it from about 12 inches away and let it sit for about 2 minutes, I think, before adding another layer. And then I think I do about 3 coats. So 3 coats, 2 minutes in between to let dry, and you're spraying about 12 inches away from the part. When priming, don't forget, you do not want to, while you're spraying, you do not want to stop in one spot or sit for too long. You don't want it to puddle. You literally just want to dust it and get product on it, but you don't want to overdo it, because if you overdo it, you'll get runs. It's going to look really bad. So it's probably better off to go with less than more. So I'm going to start on priming, and we'll start with the knuckle first. It's the biggest part. Alright, I did my 3 coats, 2 minutes between. It is like 90 degrees out and roughly around 50% humidity, so it should be fine. It says to now wait about 30 minutes before you can really touch. I have a timer going. Once 30 minutes hits, I'll then flip over the parts that haven't been painted on the bottom and do the bottom 3 coats. And then I believe if you leave it for about 12 to 24 hours, then it will be fully like hardened and ready to be done with. So now we just gotta wait. This should take a while. Alright, it's been 10 minutes. I have just flipped over the parts. The knuckle I probably should have done more of a half and half. I kind of tried getting as much as possible, and I don't know how it's gonna come out. There's also a lot of little hairs on it that got painted that I didn't see at first, so that might be an issue. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a hair there, quite a bit up on top. So it's doable. You can kind of probably pick it off. Again, all the more reason why you should make sure that your part is completely clean. Nothing is on it at all. But now I shall do the bottom sides. Again, 3 coats, 2 minutes between each coat. Then we let it sit for about 12 hours. I'm going to see if I can let it sit overnight. And in the morning it should be ready. So let's go paint. Alright, so I just finished painting the bottoms, priming. Now we get to let it sit overnight. My camera's actually dying, so I gotta make this quick. So we're going to let this sit overnight. We'll be back at it tomorrow. And not all the parts will be painted black. Some will be painted gray. I actually still have to go pick up the paint for that. So we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll check out the condition of the new parts. Welcome back to what you'll see is day 2. It's been a couple days due to weather, but I finally got it to the right temperature and the right humidity. So now we're gonna paint this with a semi-gloss black. You can choose whatever color you decide to paint with. I'm using black for these parts, and I'm only doing the knuckle and the fork for the coilovers. So first off, what you want to do is just prep the surface, kind of make sure it's clean. Make sure there's no burrs or anything stuck in the primer. That way when you paint, it can adhere to the primer as best as possible. So we're gonna go over this real quick and check for any defects. As you can see right around here, there's a lot of little hairs and fibers in the primer. For me, the best way to get it off is just use your finger and do like a bit of a circular motion and just kind of like brush them off or work them off. Because if you use any type of abrasive like sandpaper or wire brush, it could take off the coating. If you really want to make these parts like, you know, on paint job finish perfect, what you'd want to do is take about 400 grit sandpaper and sand this down until it was really smooth, then wipe down with alcohol and then go and paint. But I'm not trying to make them look like a paint job. I just want to make them a different color and protect against rust. So I'm just going to take all this off real quick. Comes off relatively easy. You just got to put a little bit of elbow grease in. Obviously the stuff on the tape I won't worry about because I'll be taking off the tape anyways. Tape's not staying. Come on. Alright, now that I've taken all the imperfections off, as you can see, it is looking a lot better. Less little burrs on it. You know, there's a couple left just due to the tape. Alright, now that I've cleaned off the parts, we're now going to finally hit it with some black paint. So I'm going to hit it with a coat, wait a couple minutes for it to dry. Hit it with the second one, again wait. Third one, and then we wait about an hour. I'm going to give it 24 hours for it to fully dry completely. So let's get to painting. Alright, well, I just threw on the last coat of paint, and now we let it dry for 24 hours. That is how you paint most parts. I know there are 1,000 different ways to do it. There are probably better and worse ways than how I've done it, but this is the way I do it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, and if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and click the notification bell. And if you want to post a helpful comment, don't be mean, feel free to do so below. And I hope to see you next video. Peace.